once again, I'm Raman Chadha. I'm one of the founders of the Junto Institute, and very happy to have you guys joining us here today for our latest webinar, How We're Saving Our Small Business from Near Failure a Second Time. And I'm not referring to our business, I'm just referring to the title. We have the joy and honor of having Nick Cirillo, who is the founder of two companies, Nick's Pizza and Pub, which he'll be sharing stories about, and that is the small business referred to in the title, and also the Trust and Track Institute, which is a growing business that he started a few years ago, which he may tell you a little bit more about later on.
Thank you, Raman. Appreciate it.
So at Junto, our mission is to help companies and their leaders become infinitely smarter, better, and healthier. And we do that through an array of leadership development programs, as well as emotional intelligence training. We are using the quarantine period and doing these webinars to help people who run businesses, operate companies, lead companies, or want to learn from the experiences of people who've been there and done that. And so we've been featuring a number of our mentors in the program, as well as our alumni, to talk about how they have built, grown businesses, how some of them are experiencing near failure, to be able to empower business owners who are operating them right now to learn from those experiences, so hopefully they can avoid some of the same mistakes or challenges that they've been through. Nick is one of those mentors who's been with our program since the very beginning in 2013. Here's a sample of some of the leadership webinars that we've done over the last several months. And as you can see, it's just an array of topics. And then we also have done 4 webinars on emotional intelligence and leadership. So we would love to get questions from all of you. Please also share your general thoughts on what you're hearing and what you're processing. You're welcome to share those anonymously. You're welcome to share them with your name. And you can use either the Q&A or the chat button. And when we were preparing with Nick, one of the things that he said was, anything is fair game. So please don't hold back. Nick, as you'll hear, is very comfortable being an open book, very comfortable being transparent. And it's important to him to be able to hear the questions from all of you that are important to you, and he will answer them to the best of his ability. So please don't hold back with Nick. So now what I'd like to do is introduce him formally to you, and he'll tell you so much more about his story. But Nick has been not only founder, but also owner of Nick's Pizza and Pub for about the last 24 years. And it is a small company based in the suburbs of Chicago that has 2 restaurants. And he then parlayed a lot of what they learned over the years and instituted in their business from an operational standpoint into this new company called the Trust and Track Institute. And so basically what they do is they train companies all around the world on how to execute and implement the practices and principles that you're going to be hearing a little bit about today. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to go straight into the conversation here. There's a 24-year history with Nick's Pizza and Pub, and we're going to start kind of not at the very middle, but well, actually probably close to the middle, with the story of the first time that Nick Cirillo and his team were facing the prospect of failure. So Nick, I'm going to hand it off to you and get things going.
Yeah, thank you, Raman. I appreciate that. And very true. I mean, that's why I'm here is, I actually started that conversation. It's like, why am I doing this? To talk about how I screwed up so many times? But no, it's really so it could, to provide some information and some lessons learned to others to help them avoid some of the ups and downs. And it truly does feel like a roller coaster, you know, from really high highs of great success and, you know, opening the restaurant, my first one in '95, to the second one, you know, wanting to do more, open more restaurants, open the second one in 2005. Then getting into, it's like, yeah, great opened the second one. Great sales. Things are going great. Actually got a lot of press. Was getting recognized in Inc. magazine and all these kinds of great things. And decided to open a third restaurant in 2007 on the northwest side, Portage Park area of Chicago. 45 minutes from our other two. My other two were in the suburbs when I first opened those. And just as I'm about to open that one, I got the financing and got the space, got a lease, and started to work on it. And right then is when Bank of America bought out LaSalle Bank. And although they said everything would be the same, turns out about 6 months later, when I went to get the loan, they said, no, we're not doing restaurants. That was right at the very beginning of the recession. So, which left our resources kind of dry. So, but we were fine. We were managing fine with the two restaurants. Went back, focused on the two restaurants just to get through the recession, like so many, right? 2008 had hit pretty hard. A lot of people were losing their jobs. We were actually doing okay with the two restaurants that we were doing. To your point, that I actually thought we were going to make it through because we had been through, 2009-11 and, all these other ups and downs, and really thought things were fine. It did, the hard part was I had to get through that other lease in Chicago, which is again why we ended up being kind of cash right on. I mean, we were fine. We just didn't have any backup. Getting through the recession, doing a lot of good things, getting through the recession, our restaurants were plugging along. The Elgin restaurant struggled a little more than the Crystal Lake restaurant. Next thing you know, things were getting a little tougher at the end of the recession, where I'm starting to really watch cash flow. We built a cash flow projection model, which helped a lot. I learned a lot about cash flow projections. Lesson number one, cash flow is king, but it was really good. We get into 2011, and just as things were really starting to, I weren't sure where things were going. We had great news in 2011. The beginning of 2011, they're going to build this huge Sam's Club and Walmart right across the street from the Elgin restaurant on that corner. Holy cow! You can imagine, how we all felt the sense of savior, right? Relief that this big super center was coming to bring a lot of traffic, a lot of, to a kind of quiet, sleepy corner that we were on there. So we're excited about that. And we knew there'd be construction and that would be a little challenging. We actually budgeted for a little road construction that they told us about on the corner where we were at, as they built the entrances and stuff. What we didn't plan for was 2 lanes going to 6 lanes and how they basically like all the barricades and shutting down, changing road configuration, how that impacted our summer of 2011 was incredible. Really, really a big challenge. So much so that we were in the middle of that summer where we were like now experiencing several weeks of being cash negative, and the Crystal Lake restaurant having to jump in to support the Elgin restaurant. The Elgin restaurant actually dropped 50% in sales over that summer, and summer is our busiest time of year usually. So we had been doing all kinds of, we had the team very involved in trying to, because we had open books and the team was involved with our fiscal huddles of trying to get things back in order, different ideas around marketing and things. We had kind of little wins, but obviously nothing that brought back 50% of sales. We got some good news though in September that they were going to open, those stores are going to be open October 1st. So we really thought, okay, if we could just make it through till then, we'd be in good shape. We did this big end of summer event. I'll never forget, like it was the end of August, whatever Labor Day was, end of construction, the barricades were going down, big week, promotion, party outside. It had a good impact, but not what we needed. I'll never forget that Saturday after that week, in the beginning of September, I opened up my laptop to look at my cash flow projections, my numbers, all that stuff. And I just saw, instead of seeing green numbers, I was seeing all the red, more red of coming over the next like 4 or 5 weeks. I was beside myself. I was like, this was our last ditch effort. And I could see that we weren't going to make it to the opening of that store if that store was going to be, even enough. I didn't know what to do. I actually that Saturday morning, since we talk about emotions, I totally broke down in tears, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to have to close up. I don't have enough money to make it. We're going to run out of money for payroll in 4 weeks. That's all I had left. I didn't know what to do. In that moment, within about a half hour, I just opened up my laptop, and maybe as part of a relief, but I began to write a letter to our guests and my team. My team kind of knew already, but really to the guests that come to the restaurants, and I wanted to let them know that we weren't going to make it. What was really important about that letter too, I wanted to let them know that it wasn't the fault of my managers or my team, that they had actually gone above and beyond. They had done their work. The managers were doing everything I've asked of them. It was my fault for getting us in too tight of a position, financial position in the front end of a recession anyhow. And then we didn't have the resources to get through this, and we were going to have to close our doors. So I get done writing that letter, and I print it off and I bring it to my team on Saturday, and I wanted to share it in a pre-shift before I share it with anybody else with the team, because I really wasn't sure if it was a good idea. I wanted them to look at it, and I wasn't 100% sure that I should be so open and transparent with our guests. We have at that time we had, I think, almost 20-something thousand people on our email database, that we would send Frequent Diner database. And I wanted them to know, because they were basically like our family. And my team looks at it, the letter, and in the pre-shift, they're all huddled around the Elgin restaurant, and they actually said, yes, this is what we should do. This is part of our values. Open and honest communication is one of our core values, amongst others, and they thought that we should send this out. So I still wasn't sure, but I decided to talk to a couple of professionals. I let them, a professional PR firm I knew in Chicago. Also my banker, I let them know that we're going to do this. I waited till Monday morning. I decided to wait till Monday morning before I was going to send it out. And I asked them about it. And the professionals that I shared this letter with, they right away told me, no way, you should not do this. This is a big mistake. You're being way too honest and transparent. Your team's going to quit. You're going to get mutiny. Your vendors aren't going to deliver. They're going to say cash only. You think you have a crisis now. You're going to have a way worse crisis. The newspapers are going to lambaste you, all this stuff. I brought that back. I brought that feedback back to my team. And I said, listen, here's what the professionals are telling us. We shouldn't do this. What do you think? And of course, being who they are, they're like, Nick, this is our values. This is who we are. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stick with, we're going to stick together and get through this. And whatever we need to do, we'll get through it. So with that kind of feedback, as you could imagine, that afternoon, I went ahead and decided to, I did take their advice. I didn't share it on Facebook because all the craziness on Facebook, but an email blast I did do that afternoon. And I got to tell you, it was one of the weirdest, like, slow motion experiences of hitting the send button on a laptop. I don't know if anybody's had that experience before, but it was totally like dun, 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 slow motion, because I hit that button and I thought everything was going to be horrible, but I had this huge relief come over me. It was like, wow, you know what? I did everything I could do at this point. I've tried everything. I had sold my Mercedes. I had I had begged, borrowed, and from everybody I could. You know what? The rest is up to the universe. It's out of my hands now. So I felt a little bit of relief, and I thought this was it. I'm gonna get probably lambasted. A lot of people are gonna call me all kinds of names that I'm in a meathead or whatever, right? But I was actually okay with it. And as I walked through the restaurant, because I actually did it in the restaurant here, as I walked through the restaurant, it was only 15, 20 minutes. I'm actually walking back past the back door where the bar door is, and I have a guest come in the door. He's like, Nick, I'm here. I'm like, what? He goes, I got your email. I'm here to support you. I'm like, what? That was quick. Thought he was like maybe in the parking lot. And he said, I got it. I'm going to support you. And I'm just going to buy pizza and beer. And really within that 15, 20 minutes, all of a sudden the phone started ringing. I had my special events woman, Natasha, comes up and she's telling me, Nick, I got a phone call from the local football team. They want to know if we're going to be around in a week. They want to bring the whole team in on Friday. All this, that people started lining up out the door. We went on a 2-hour wait within minutes. Unbelievable, the feedback. The community started coming out like crazy. And although I didn't post it on Facebook, we're getting all kinds of phone calls and messages. One of our guests took the letter and posted it on Facebook for us. And we have like 400 shares within an hour. Amazing. This is before Kickstarter. This is, 2011. So now I reflect back on it. I was like, well, this was like our own little Kickstarter campaign. The way the community just kind of came in. And I got to tell you, the thing that really stood out to me most, as guests came in for the next like 4 or 5 weeks, we had 110% increase in sales, all kinds of national media, the local banker calling up and, leaving me a kind of a message. I guess you didn't listen to my advice. You went ahead and did it anyhow, but guess what? Our customers and our, board, it says we got to help you. So we're going to figure out something to help you, and all this other good stuff. The thing that really stood out to me was the feedback I was getting from the guests over those weeks. Amazing how I had, the little boy, 10-year-old kid, telling me, Nick, come on over, our family's here, go over there. And the they tell me a story about how they've been coming every Saturday. And, Maura, their server, is the one who's been there for them, the father, son, every Saturday. I had Lisa as a guest. Lisa comes to me in tears from the little girl who I go over there and she's like, oh, the mom and dad said, yeah, our daughter wants to share something with you. She gives me 5 quarters out of her piggy bank. Mom, she wanted to, give this to mom to give to Nick to save the restaurant, this little lady in the carryout in tears, talking about how Shasta, our carryout cashier, she was trying to explain the story of It's a Wonderful Life, and she was only 16 and never watched the movie, but about how how much of a part of the community it was. And, with our servers in tears, bartenders in tears, and these stories from our guests, what I realized, it was really the team that they were coming in to see. It wasn't about me. That, to me, was the greatest gift. So the team had actually created the connections. That was really what our purpose was all about. That was the biggest learning. Because previous to that last week or 2 or month actually going into this, I was so, harping on myself about, shit, what did I do wrong with this business? How is it I'm doing all these things? What do I have to do? I should be selling steak. I should be selling pasta. I spent way too much money on training. I should never spend so much money on training my team. All these things I was like so pissed at myself for doing. thinking I screwed up so many things. And here, what I had realized was, that our purpose and our values was really the thing that was pulling us through this. And that was the key, was the team that was getting us through this, going above and beyond anything I could have ever expected. So that was really where I wanted to start, about that first crisis that I went through. I got the experience, and how we got through that in the very beginning was pretty amazing.
Thanks, Nick. So let's provide a little bit more context before we rewind the time machine a little bit. At the time, 2011-ish, how big is the business? How much revenue are you doing? And the other thing is also describe the two restaurants a little bit, because I imagine most of the people on here have no idea what to envision here.
Yeah. Lick's Pizza and Pub, a lot of people think it's a little carryout place. Their carryout and delivery at that time was only like 15% of our business. When I first opened in '95, the restaurant I'm sitting in now ended at this fireplace. It was about 150 seats. Then in 2000, I doubled and put the addition on the other side of the fireplace. So it's about 9,000 square feet, 350 seats. And then when I opened Elgin Restaurant, I opened it at the same size, 350 seats, 9,000 square feet. Restaurants were in 2005 and 6 and most of 7. We were doing 8 million in sales between the two restaurants, 200 employees, huge numbers. Again, great success. Those high points before the recession. So that gives you some context of the volume. We're in the top. Back then, we were the third busiest independent restaurant in the country, probably in the world, because Europe doesn't have restaurants this size. So, we're still in the top 10. We're still volume-wise, pizza and full-service restaurants for independents. We do some pretty big volume. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Nick. So we're going to rewind a little bit more, because I imagine some of you are wondering or asking yourselves, okay, why were the customers responding like that? Yeah. When they got that email, what led that first guy to come within 15 minutes? What led to the 2-hour wait? And really, why did all of that save the business, which, as you've heard, is pretty sizable, right? So we're going back 10 years ago almost, and doing 8 million in revenue with a couple hundred employees. There's a lot that was there, a lot to lose. But part of what we haven't talked about yet is kind of what led to that. So Nick, let's go back to a little bit further back and just share briefly kind of the history of the restaurant, a little bit about your background, and most importantly, the trajectory the company took around the early to mid 2000s that led us to that level.
Yeah, I love that point, because we don't, and I hope that's something that, the participants here could take away is, the resource of our customers, can be, when we build a business around the customers, it's I think underutilized and not understood as effectively as it can be. I didn't realize, for sure, I didn't realize it until then. I think part of it is that, why I built my business. Why did I get in the business? And I grew up in the restaurant business with my dad. My dad had a place in downtown Chicago, actually what's called the Pilsen neighborhood. For some of you may know that, some don't. We had a little beef stand, and really, learned a lot about business, for one. My dad was always an entrepreneur, but also some really key things about building a business, about how to take care of the customers and take care of the team. That was always like my dad's biggest priority. Made every customer that walked in the door feel loved, virtually. He just had a great way of doing that. So that's part of what I grew up around, just that traditional value. He also gave me a lot of lessons, and I got to see other entrepreneurs, friends of his in the city, who also were in the restaurant business, and a lot of them got burned out in restaurants. And, which is stereotypical of restaurant owners, right? They're smoke a lot, drink a lot, divorced a lot, all those things. So those kind of things, like, I don't want to do that. I do want to do this, right? Part of the business. So I thought as a kid, but honestly, after working in his restaurants all through grade school, high school. I was burned out by the time I was a senior in high school. I had enough of the restaurant business. I actually told my dad I'll never get in the restaurant business again. So I don't know why. Never say never. And went on after high school to one semester of college. Didn't do so good with that, and loved carpentry. Loved working my hands. So I went on to be a carpenter. Started out building residential homes. Well, started out in Chicago, McCormick Place, then residential homes. Then my brother graduated as a architect from U of I, and together we built our own construction business. Did that for 10 years, great success, building custom homes. And that's actually how I got out to the suburbs, because we started building custom homes out here, got married, had 3 kids of my own. And through that experience of having 3 little ones, trying to take them out to eat, and having bad experiences taking them out to eat, going to a Chuck E. Cheese kind of, not good food kind of place, to go out to a nice place with the kids, and then the servers are, getting that, oh, your kids are so rambunctious. I'm thinking to myself, my angels, why wouldn't you say that, So that, that really led me, actually literally walking out of a bad experience one time with my ex-wife. We actually said, why does it have to be that way? It doesn't have to be that way. It could, why can't the kids get treated like first-class citizens in a restaurant the way the parents do, the way the adults do? And that spawned the idea of, what, I think I could do it better, and decided to get back in the restaurant business, and without a lot of money. So I designed, with my brother's help, we designed the first restaurant in Chicago. I built it. I started out building it on weekends, but really as a side job. Built it myself. I had no choice, didn't have enough money to hire anybody. So it was me and a couple laborers, and we built the restaurant and opened up in 1995. Just like that, and built it since then.
Okay. So now fast forward a little bit, and you meet this gentleman who changes the course of the business and to some degree your life.
Yeah, and it's pretty timely, I think, actually, now to have this conversation, because I didn't realize, I truly opened it, as I said, like my family experience, that for families and neighbors that come together and have a great experience. And by the way, if I want to make money, but that wasn't really what it was all about. And I opened the doors, it was jam-packed from day one. I was very fortunate. And then 6-7 years into it, I was having so much success with the addition and everything. I thought, I want to open more restaurants. I thought this is what American communities need more of, is this kind of experience. That's what I had built, was the experience for the families. That was most important for me. And I didn't want to do what I had saw as a kid, all these other entrepreneurs who ruined their life because they grew too fast or their business imploded. So I sought consultants to teach me how to open the right way, open more restaurants. And my dad wasn't the mentor back then to open more than just one, So I searched for consultants, and most of the consultants kept telling me, oh, here's how you make more money. Here's how you cut costs. Here's how you make more money. And it's like, I was making tons of money. That wasn't the problem. How do I grow the right way around? I didn't have language for purpose at the time, but I want to take care of my people and not lose our culture. And then I came across this guy by chance, truly by chance, this guy, Rudy Mick. And that's where he shared, I think a lot of entrepreneurs will connect with this, right? Nick, you got all this passion and, stuff inside you, and you're getting frustrated. He goes, let's get that passion out from inside out, and we'll create a collective purpose. So now the host and the servers and the bartenders, they don't have to read your mind, right? We'll all be here for a collective purpose and collective values. I was like, wow, this guy's speaking my language. Finally, that really was a game changer. And as I said, he even says, no one ever took that concept to heart as much as I did, and built our training around it, our orientation around it, our compensation programs around purpose and values, everything I did. Because to me, it was what I was searching for in business. I had always been searching for creating meaning at work, I always thought business was more about, I didn't want people at work to come to work just because of a paycheck or just because Nick said. I wanted to create a place that people cared. Really goes back to that book that I just saw you post, Man's Search for Meaning, right? Was what was I was holding on to. And when Rudy connected purpose and values to me, that connected Man's Search for Meaning to why our culture could really be a differentiator, a competitive advantage, and a great place for people's lives, right? So I just dove into that 100% because I thought it was the right thing to do. I never knew that it would have the kind of impact that it really did have. Amazing. And out of that process is where the Trust and Track business grew out of too. Really, because then it became a magnet for other business owners to say, what's going on here? Why is it you have less than 25% turnover in an industry that has 100% turnover, and all these other great financial metrics, along with people not wanting to leave, right? So we started teaching the training and the processes that that we had developed with the company. So,
right. So you've got a company here that's amongst the highest grossing restaurants in the independently owned restaurants in the nation. You've got some of the lowest turnover, and one thing you didn't mention is also one of the most profitable restaurants in the country.
Yeah.
You have leaned on purpose and values, and in order to create systems and processes governing everything, people and operations, so that the average guest is receiving a consistent experience, no matter who's greeting them, no matter who's serving them, and so on. You don't have to be in the business. You don't have to be in the restaurant, even though you spend a lot of time there. You don't have to be there. And that's what kind of drives this loyalty, right? Because there's this emotional connection that the customers and your guests, as you call them, had built with Nick's Pizza and Pub.
Yes, yeah, 100%. That the tool that we use, we call Issue Purpose Value Solution, to me was a great succession model tool for me, because it allowed the team to come to solutions and solve problems using the same thought process values that I use, right? We all solve problems, so that way they don't have to come and ask for permission. I always just say, here, use this tool, right? So you're right, I didn't have to be here as much. And for me, that was always important because I had 3 kids. I wanted to be there for their football games and cheerleading and all that stuff. Really, really key point. Yeah, that made a difference.
Thank you. And a reminder, please share your questions. You're welcome to ask any clarifying questions on what Nick has already talked about, and or other questions for that matter. Like I said, he said everything is fair game. So feel free to ask any questions you'd like. And we're going to now go into, we're going to kind of fast forward and come more closer to the present. So just a quick kind of summary, and Nick, feel free to add some details here. They obviously make it through the 2011 and 12 debacle. The business comes back, it's healthier than ever. In fact, that's around the time that you and I met, Nick.
Yep.
And we met because one of Nick's sons was a student of mine when he was going to college. And that's how I learned about the story. I'd been aware of Nick Cirillo and aware of Nick's Pizza, but didn't know the story. And so around that time, the business starts to, rebuild its growth trajectory, and it's doing just that. And we start getting involved with the Junto Institute. The business continues to grow. You decide to open up a 3rd restaurant in the city of Chicago. That subsequently didn't work out, and for a lot of reasons. But we're going to kind of come now into 2020 and have you pick up with the present period over the last 3 to 6 months, and what has taken place and why and how you're facing near failure a second time.
Yeah, it's a good point. Truly a roller coaster, and sometimes we talk about the emotional wheel. I often wonder or reflect on, is optimism a strength or a weakness? Because I with the second round of opening in Chicago and that restaurant not opening, was I blinded by my optimism? And then we get through this crisis now, and it feels like sometimes, does my optimism help me get through these crises? And so I don't have an answer for that, and the participants could be the judge. Well, I gotta say, 2012, I was very fortunate. We restructured our debt. The bank helped us with all that. And 2013, our best years were probably 2014, 15, 16 again. Back to those big sales, double-digit profit, which the restaurant industry never sees. We're in the 15% profit range. For restaurants, that's crazy. So I'm like, okay, we're ready to go get back on track to open a third restaurant. I find a great location in Lincoln Square. I thought it was a great location. It wasn't on the main part of Lincoln Square. It was off. So it was, again, cheaper, better value real estate. But my optimism is, well, yeah, this is a C, it's not an A location, not a B, it's kind of a C location. But, we're so good, we could push through that, right? So I thought, and I have a two parts, just to that point, I think a good thing to reflect on too is, what's your version of success? Because my version of success wasn't just to open a restaurant and bring a great product and a great experience to our guests. I also wanted to bring our business model to this community. The kids, we have such high success. We have such an impact on young folks' lives and the tools that we teach them around, our communication tools and our business as a school mindset, to help them be the best young folks that they could be. That was the other part of success I was looking at. And so we did have some versions of those success, even though we couldn't keep the restaurant open to get past the sales numbers that we needed, to forgo. So again, I put myself in a tough spot. In 2018, we had to close that restaurant. And I actually brought on a partner to help me get through it. And although we still had to close that, the partner loved the concept so much that he wanted to buy the whole restaurant company, and I would just be a chairman, a president, basically on the board. So I was like, I've been in this business for quite a few years. I'm getting a little burned out. The Trust and Track Institute is actually doing really good. That's the business I'm having more passion and fun with. So I said yes to the sale. And as we get his financing, he's pulling together financing to make the sale. And at the end of December of 2019, the final hour, his financing fell through and the purchase fell apart. So I didn't, we had just closed. We were still working on the lease that we had signed, 10-year lease in that Chicago location. So without getting out, he was going to buy that debt, and that was the purchase price. And so now I couldn't overcome that debt without the purchase. So we had to go into Chapter 11 to get through this as well, to restructure our debt again, just as we're getting into the COVID stuff. So talk about another big swing of highs to lows. It's been quite the challenge to step into. Holy cow, I thought I was going to go into this next phase of my life. And here we are. I'm back, in day-to-day operations in the restaurant, and faced with, do we close our doors again? When we had to shut down everything. So we again brought the team together, brought the managers together, and said, well, we do have carry out and delivery. Let's focus on carry out and delivery. And what we decided was what we said, what we need to do is a mindset shift. We need to say, we're going to be the best kind of production, a manufacturing kind of mindset, right? For our carry out and delivery business, we're gonna kill it in this part of our business. We're gonna design whatever we need to design. So we started to think. It took us about 4 weeks to figure out how to not have guests come in to carry out, create curbside and delivery, take one part of our business that used to be 15 to 20% of our business is now going to be 100% of the business, right? When this first happened, we were doing about maybe 30 to 40% of our original sales in those first few weeks in our carry out and delivery business in the restaurants. And now we're up to about 60, above 60% of our sales, of our full sales now. So it's been quite, actually an exciting challenge for us to be able to pivot and improve our business like that as a team, to do it together. So.
And when we talked recently, you made this cool statement about how you're battling a different virus of complacency.
Yeah, you know that it's funny you should mention it, because I was working my way out of, more of absentee ownership, at the end of 2019. And as I got back into day-to-day operations over the last couple months here, I realized it, we at the core, we have a lot of our, a lot of things are going really good, for sure, but really the thing that was surprising me most was the rituals, the little rituals around our daily processes that were lacking, the things like signing the tickets and, so that complacency was creeping in tremendously. And that's what was really hurting morale most and hurting our performance most. I had to circle the team together and say, what's going on here? I feel like you guys, forget. And that's what I think part of it was the stress that everybody was going through too, maybe, but there was definitely the attention to detail that I had that was lacking. And luckily it wasn't too bad that we were able to circle back around and shore up the foundation again.
And how are you guys now in these last 3 months as this is all hit? And by the way, would love for you to share also like what has happened to the restaurant as a result of COVID. So for those who aren't in Illinois, we've had our own lockdown and with phases of reopening. But walk us through a little bit about how the business has been affected by COVID, shutting down, slowly reopening, et cetera. You've already mentioned a few of the numbers. But then also kind of going back to what the strengths were of the business and how that has affected the recovery up to now and what you're foreseeing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it is, so as we pivot and rethink about our businesses, whether it's restaurants or whatever it might be, for me, the big thing was communication. I really was proactive with communicating a lot with our team and our guests. I thought of it those two ways, those two lanes. I don't know. I was like always communicating with our team daily and weekly, and then always communicating with our guests and letting them know, because people want to know, how are you doing? What's the impact to me as a guest, but also the team, because we're such a big part of the community, and the fears and stress that our team was going through about when the news came on. I remember it was a Sunday when the governor announced that they were going to shut down. There was servers. I had servers in tears here, single moms. Like, what am I going to do? And so we definitely listened a lot. We communicated a lot to get through this together. Listened to voices a lot, and then we decided, that's how we work together to develop how we're going to create. We figuring out as we went, things that I would never do in the past. I've always really structured around systems and processes. So a menu in the restaurant business is really important. I would never roll out a menu like on the fly, but we created a do it at home menu that we actually posted on our website on the front page, that we had the kids take home's pizza, right? And then the appetizers we put coming soon. So we actually literally rolled out a menu that was half done. I would never do that normally, but that's the kind of thing. You got to be able to adapt. And so that was really important. And then we have, again, in our social media campaign, one of the hosts stepped up and said, I'll take on social media. Again, we're looking for ways to keep our team engaged and keep paying people. And she took on social media, and so awesome, because we're doing more pictures of the team, what's going on with us, sharing that with our guests, sharing, how we were doing the curbside, and we took our whole host team and redesigned our art and science of training and created art and science of curbside hosts. And now we have a whole training program, art and science of how to be a curbside host. I probably should sell it to Portillo's. I think they could use it. Good competition, right? It always takes our game up, you know? So things like that have really impacted us. And again, a lot of kudos to our team for working together and being creative.
So one more reminder for all of you to please submit your questions. I think Jen sent me a message saying that we've got a couple questions. We'll get to that in a minute. So you said you came back 60% with carryout and delivery. What was the cliff like? How much did business drop after lockdown hit?
Yeah, it was, wow. Yeah, we went down to, wow, like from, well, a good example, the whole week, I think, yeah, it was over probably a 80% drop in, you know, thousands of dollars from, you know, the 60,000 a week to, you know, like 25. I mean, $100 Monday, that's crazy for us, you know, it's, you know, so we have these Give Back Tuesdays, buy one, get one free for the community for, we created. And, you know, usually back, we would do like, say, a good example of, we would do like a $12,000 Tuesday with the whole restaurant and carry out. A Friday or Saturday might be a $12,000. Now we're back to $12,000 Tuesdays just on, like Crystal Lake does $12,000 Tuesday just with carry out and delivery, mostly all carry out. So that's, you know, pretty amazing to be able to come back that strong. So.
Okay. Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you here.
Yeah, Nick, one of the questions is, obviously you've run into a lot of issues, you know, restaurants in Chicago, the construction, those things. What keeps you motivated to just keep doing this?
Yeah, really, that's a great question. I would say the low point was closing that Chicago restaurant, because it was truly a dream to go back and open in my neighborhood. So it wasn't just, you know, a business, you know, closing a store. It was like closing down on a dream. That was probably the most upsetting. I honestly had really bad thoughts about my life at that point. There was a really rock bottom phase. And I would have to say, you know, family, knowing that I have young kids. I mean, they're in their 20s. But for me, it's what we've created. I just feel this responsibility to my team and my family that kept me going, and really breaking. I feel if there's one thing that's really helped me through the crisis, through that time and now, is focusing on the moment. Is like, let's just get through this moment day by day, really getting through, because I believe, because I've been through this before, that this too will pass, as cheesy as that is true. And so that's really what kept me motivated, is I want to get on the other side of this for our team and for our guests. And I don't know if I'm going to get back to selling the restaurant. Actually, you know, what kind of, I guess there's the optimism thing again, you know. It's like I create a new idea of how, you know, so my new idea is, how about if I create, you know, although I'm burned out with the restaurant business, I'm going to create an owner's model so the team could own our restaurant business and I can be an absentee owner and let the team run it. I truly want to create an equity sharing. So now that's my challenge. I guess I give myself these challenges of next thing to kind of create something special for our team. So great question. You had really reflecting on that. So that was a good question. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Jen?
All right. Another question is, Nick, you talked about cash flow being something that you learned early on, in the sense of, you know, planning. what other things, I mean, nobody can predict a pandemic, but what are the other things besides cash flow that you've learned that from a business standpoint you've put into place or will put into place post-pandemic?
Yeah. I I can't emphasize enough cash flow. It's not just cash flow. I just want to emphasize that it's not, because I knew cash flow was important. What I didn't know was how to build a cash flow projection model. I had cash flow statements like most of us get, right, that are after the fact. What really, both in the first crisis and this crisis, one of the first things I did with the guy who stayed on, who still might, was going to buy it, but with my team, it's like, we got to get back to daily cash flow, weekly cash flow projections, projecting the next few weeks, 4 weeks out. That, again, is such a huge discipline. Project your cash flow going forward. And then the other was communication, often transparent communication, instead of, again, I have, that other owner telling me, no, you can't communicate that much. And my response is, watch what happens when we do. And, again, be transparent. Don't be afraid. Let go of that fear. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but a lot of communication, and pay attention to details. Again, that complacency is also a virus. Pay attention to details and what's the foundational rituals that built the business, and make sure those are still in place.
Nick, you mentioned earlier that you've had the lowest turnover, or amongst the lowest levels of turnover in the entire restaurant industry. One of the questions that has come up a lot over the years through the Junto program is how many people you've had to fire, and it's been a very low number. But given what's happened the last 3 months, how many people have you had to let go?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number. We had our whole front of the house staff went on furlough. We're actually making phone calls to get them back now. And actually the unemployment thing has helped. That stipend has helped them all a lot. And we brought a lot of them. We started bringing people back to start cleaning, and we were not able to get the PPP money because of the Chapter 11. And then I budgeted out to get through this without the PPP money. The bank, our rent is helping. Of course, the bank is being flexible with deferring the rent while we work through this. But other than that, we're paying everything else. We've had our team come back on to help the front of house team come back on. There's a bartender now that's one of our delivery drivers. Like I said, our servers and hosts are helping with the curbside host. We have our purpose on a board in the carryout lobby, even though the guests aren't in there, our team is on there and talking to people in their cars, believe it or not. It's something that a lot of places don't do. I don't know. I mean, we went, our heart of house team, the kitchen team, the heart of house team, we were able to keep all of them for sure. So we lost probably 60% of our team for the first couple of weeks, and then went to about 40% of our team after the first 3 weeks.
Okay. And you're doing this without the PPP loan. That's
yes.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. And they're coming back, right? When you ask them to come back,
yes,
they're actually returning.
Yes, yeah, that was the conversation I just had this morning. So we're getting, as far as I know, people are all coming back, especially some of the ones that were in school. So yeah, we're getting people back. We're just trying to work around the 4th of July, but other than that, it's good. So I feel, I'm interested. It's going to be interesting to see what the morale is like, because this team got us through this together. So I got to believe that the team is going to feel much closer for all of our businesses, right? The ones that we get on the other side of this with, it's going to be pretty cool, I think, on the other side of this, morale-wise.
So we've only got a couple minutes left, Nick. Would love for you to share maybe some closing thoughts. And even though we don't promote giving advice in Junto, right now during a time of uncertainty and chaos and ambiguity, we all could use some advice.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to share that for our participants.
Yeah, it's really hard to give. I don't know if I can give advice. I can give you what's worked for me is, really, I think a meditation practice has been one of the key health benefits for me because it has helped me continue to pay attention to not worrying, plan for the future. Don't worry about the future, right? And then be in the present. Once you get the plan done and the cash flow projections done, then do the best you can in the moment and communicate a lot and call friends like Raman and talk to them once in a while. Find those core folks in your circle.
Great. Well, thank you, Nick. Appreciate all the time that you've given to Junto over the years, and especially sharing the story. Really, and like always, appreciate your transparency and openness and unguarded tales. So thank you for being with us here today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that wraps it up, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Yeah.